Want to check in with Rick Santelli, get the Santelli exchange on this Thursday. Rick, I know you got a lot to cover. I'm sure at some point you'll address this news about Jim DeMint today. It's quite a shocker.
Absolutely. Right at the end of the exchange, let's talk about that. But for today, Toy Story, I like the movies, but I never thought to infinity and beyond would be the phrase to describe debt ceiling. The debt ceiling was born of the Second Liberty Act of 1917. Financing our entry into World War I had issues, but ultimately it wasn't until 1939 that the current debt ceiling law really was born with an actual limit. And since then, obviously, there's been many documented violations. But in the end, many believe that it isn't so much a violation to have a debt ceiling, it would be a violation not to. Listen to our president yesterday.
The only thing that the debt ceiling is good for as a weapon is to destroy your credit rating.
I beg to differ, Mr. President. To me, I understand the use of it as a weapon, but to me, the real problem isn't the debt ceiling, it's the debt. The debt is the problem. To have an unlimited amount of money to call upon is too much power for one person. It's always in our country been about checks and balances, but I think this administration just wants more checks and no balancing of the checkbook. That isn't the kind of check and balance that I think the people that wrote the Constitution had in mind. Now let's look at it a different way. When we think of, some good entertainment, there's, Bob Hope, The Road to Morocco, The Road to Singapore. I don't think that we want to have a movie someday called The Road to the Weimar Republic because Bob Hope was in those old movies. There's no hope in that new movie. And I really think that this issue really has to be discussed. Now, I understand there's issues about compromise, and everybody has heard that the president and the Democrats won the White House. Understand that. But the debt ceiling really is a serious issue. And as nasty as it might be, and credit ratings might change based on the dynamics of how this perpetuates itself when we hit the debt ceiling, which is probably going to be in the next 8 to 9 weeks. But truly, Congress has to have some say-so in this, and the people that put those people in Congress have huge opinions. And finally, I say less M&A on the government side. And yes, I'm not talking about mergers and acquisitions. I'm talking about our money addiction. Carl, back to you.
Jim, on DeMint, what does it mean for the party? Can he be more powerful outside the Senate than inside?
I think that Mr. DeMint is the perfect guy to run the foundation. And when we talk Tea Party, there isn't a bona fide leader. It's a bunch of fragmented groups. But I think at the epicenter of what made it such a wild growth movement is because of the common denominator of fiscal responsibility. And I think Jim DeMint will bring that to the forefront, even though it's a catch-all for a lot of groups that have other motives besides fiscal responsibility.